Om Sadashivasamārambhām Shankaracharya-madhyamām Asmadacharya-paryantāṃ Vande Guru-paramparaṃ Dayakaram Dayakaram Dāntam Dharma-pravartakam Pranamāmi Dayanandam Madacharya-varam param. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Narayana Paro Vyaktat Andam Avyakta Sambhavam Andasyantastvime Lokaha Saptadvipa Cha Medini. Om Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaivate Gantavyam Brahmakarma Samadhina. We have seen a very brilliant expose on part of Bhagavan Bhashyakara with regard to this verse. And what is the brilliance here? The brilliance is connected to this particular interpretation. The one interpretation we know, everything is Brahman iti. That is what this verse is trying to convey. Anybody who knows a little bit of Sanskrit will understand that everything is Brahman. But a twist in this interpretation and the brilliance is in the understanding of the word Brahma and Arpanam. So the Arpanam is the instrument with which the yajna is offered, and here the instrument here is interpreted by Bhashyakara as the instrument of knowledge, which is the means of knowledge, Shabda Pramana, and also Guru Upasadanam, all the accoutrements that are needed, approaching the teacher, and Shraddha needed to accept the Shabda Pramana, that the words of the Veda are authoritative in nature and they have something to tell me which is of use for me. To accept that, what do I need? I need a reverence. So the Shraddha is brought in, everything is brought in, and so the Arpanam becomes something like Samyak Darshanam. Samyak Darshanam here means seeing the reality for what it is. This is Jnana Phalam. And to illustrate seeing the reality for what it is, we see the example of yes, shell and silver. Shell and silver. So just like the empirical world jnani, meaning not Brahma jnani here, somebody who has the right perception is able to sift and discriminate between shell and then silver, even though they shine similarly. In the same way, this person who has understood this Arpanam in the form of the instrument of knowing, what is that person able to do? Distinguish between what and what? Satyam and Mithya and everything else. Everything else is what? Mithya. This is the brilliance of the interpretation, which is kind of in his own way. He's not a show off, and so if we are not awake, these kinds of things get missed. Yeah, because he doesn't have that aplomb, and yes, he will argue with the Purva Pakshis, and he is very much on the side of knowledge, and all that is there. But these kinds of things, he just sneaks it through, and we have to be vigilant in understanding that. So we saw that. And then we also saw the uselessness, or the second thing that this verse communicates is the uselessness of the factors involved in the action. What are the factors involved in the action? Yeah, agent, object, instrument, purpose of action, etc., etc., etc. All the accoutrements of action are what? They have committed suicide. Upamardanam. They heard this verse and they said, oh my God, we need to jump off a cliff immediately. That is what they proceeded to do. Figurative cliff. And so, in this manner, when the accoutrements of action, when everything that is there to call an action and action, minimum what should be there? Karta, and then object, instruments, minimum. 3 things should be there. First 3 cases should be there. Minimum to call an action, along with, of course, the intentionality of the agent, the actor. When that minimum fulfillment, that minimum is not fulfilled, how can it be action? So therefore, what is it? No action. So where did the karta go? The same place where the snake went upon the recognition of the rope. In the same manner, the recognition of the adhisthana of all kinds of mental snakes, fears, tears, all these things, that in the recognition of the adhisthana, which is Brahman as myself, adhisthana means the ultimate, the truth of everything. And in the recognition of that as myself, all the snaky factors of life, fear, tears, all these things disappear, dissipate. How do they dissipate? Because in the wake of knowledge, just like when you recognize the rope, snake disappears. When you recognize the locus of everything as Brahman, all the other superimposed fears, pains, sorrows, also what do? They disappear. They disappear. And so therefore, this understanding is very, very important, because it leads to the killing of all the factors of action. When all the factors of action, starting with the agent, I, karta, ahankara, as karta, is killed off, upamardanam syat. When that upamardanam takes place, can whatever happens be called action? No. Here also we have a case of the superimposition, so to speak, of the action, actor, agent, and all the karakas on what? On Brahman, free of being, action, agent, all these things. So therefore, the Brahmavit, the Jnani, who is identical with Brahman and who has understood that, is forever free of action. In short, this is the summary of everything we did yesterday. Is that clear? Good. Okay. So now, and he will conclude this and then also entertain briefly and dismiss one more interpretation. And one more interpretation of this verse, and then we will see that. But first let us conclude page 257. Drashta cha kamya agnihotradau karma upamardena kamya agnihotradi hanihi. Okay. So now Agnihotradau, in the Agnihotra, etc. What is Agnihotra? Nitya karma. Daily duties is there. So when the daily duties are performed, what are they performed for generally? Swarga or peace here, all these things. This is the reason why daily duties are performed. Now, if one is a karma yogi, going back to chapter 3, if one is a karma yogi, one still has to do Agnihotra. But why is one doing Agnihotra? For whose sake? For what sake? Antahkarana Shuddhyartham, for the sake of inner growth and emotional maturity. So then, even if you are not a jnani, you are doing Agnihotra, etc. for a different purpose. What is the purpose? Growth and freedom from suspension of, and then freedom from raga and dvesha. This is how and this is why you are doing this, correct? So then also the results of action do not bind you. This was already mentioned in chapter 3. So Adi Shankara reminds us of this. So karma upamardena kamya agnihotradi hanihi. So when the karma here is karma phala. So kama here is karma phala, not karma, sorry. Kama upamardena, when that longing for the result, the kama for what? Karma phala is removed, then that is as good as akarma, even though not akarma, even though the person is not yet a jnani. So then what to talk about? A jnani who is as though seeing the whole world as an offering unto what? Unto Brahman. Everything is Brahman. So even the ajnani, or rather the jnani wannabe, the wannabe jnani, the one who wants to be a jnani, is in the process of knowing, and even though they don't yet have the full purport of this vision, they are also freed from karma. That was what was the purport of chapter 3. They don't have the full effect of this vision, but still they are freed from karma. Why? Because they are not interested in the results, even though doing the action. And then what to talk of? Somebody who is a jnani and doing everything as though. So therefore, the one who is identical with Brahman, and everyone is identical with Brahman, the one who has understood I am non-separate from Brahman, has the beauty of being akarta, has the gift of akartritvam. Then furthermore he points out also that when you do an action with a particular intention, then the results are different than doing the action with a bad intention. Same action you can be doing. So you can praise somebody. You are a wonderful singer. You are a wonderful dancer. Then when you do that with a good intention, then the effects of that is what makes the person happy, and they understand, yes, this is a good thing that happened. But then suppose the intention is wrong. Secretly the person who is praising has matsara. What is matsara? Jealousy, envy. And so it's like a backhanded praise, compliment. Backhanded compliment. Oh, you think you're a great dancer, huh? Yeah, or that was some performance, but then after that what do? You do something passive aggressive, like roll the eyes. You compliment all right, and then you roll the eyes. What happens to that compliment? It is as good as no compliment. So here also we see, based on our intentions, the effects are different. And then so therefore here the one who is intent, the idea of saying this, what he is going to say in the Bhashya, is that the one who is intent on Atmajnanam is is absolved from all karma, because that intention itself, the one who is either intent on gaining this knowledge or has already gained this knowledge, what is their sankalpa? Their sankalpa is not to bring back themselves as karta. That would be a useless thing. So they remain what? Akarta. So if the sankalpa is I am not a karta, then the karma and the karma phala also is of no use to them. It's all as though. This is what is being said now. Tatha matipurvaka amatipurvakadinam karmanam. Tatha means in the same manner. What do we see? Matipurvaka amatipurvakadinam karmanam. Actions with different intentions. Actions with good intentions, matipurvaka, and amatipurvaka means actions with wrong intentions, or actions done mindfully, or actions done unmindfully. That also we can say. Karya visheshasya arambhakatvam drishtam. Karya means karma phala. So the karma phala that comes out of mindful actions with good intentions is different from the karma phala which comes from wrong actions and wrong intentions. And so why we already saw what is the importance of that. So here also iha api tatha, in the same manner here also brahma buddhi upamridita arpanadi karaka kriya phala bheda buddhehe. That compound is a bahuvrihi compound. It is as long as the line. Okay? Yeah. Other than these three words, tatha, iha and api. It's a very long compound. And so, who is this person? Buddhehe, the one who is having this understanding. What is the understanding? Brahma buddhi. Brahma buddhya. That understanding which, because of the understanding of oneself as Brahman, through the understanding of oneself as Brahman, upamridita. Upamridita means by that understanding for whom, or we can even take itham bhute tritiya here, Brahma buddhya, in the form of the Brahma buddhi, that which has caused upamridita, caused the death of all karakas, actions and the results thereof. The one who is having that understanding is called Brahma buddhi upamridita arpanadi karaka kriya phala bheda buddhehe. Hope this is nobody's first name. Very difficult to call them. How will you call them and say, hey, please do your seva? Very long name. Won't even fit in a form. Okay? Yeah. So, this is the person who bahya cheshta matrena karma api vidushaha akarma sampadhyate. Who may be doing cheshta matra means who may be doing some action or the other. Where? With the hands, with the legs, bahya, outside, with the accoutrements outside. They may be doing cheshta, but it does not constitute what? As karma. Why? Because they are, let's repeat that just for fun, Brahma buddhi upamridita arpanadi karaka kriya phala bheda buddhihi. That is the one. So therefore the karma does not touch. Ataha uktam samagram praviliyate iti. That's why in the verse before this, what was said? Sarvam samagram karma praviliyate. It was said, we saw that in the verse right before this. Ataha uktam. And then he is ready to conclude. But then he has to take up this kind of an objection. Not even an objection, a different interpretation which people may have. What is this different interpretation? For this we have to know a little bit about the Upasana portion of the Vedas, where there are two kinds of meditation. Generally, there are many kinds of meditations, but two in general, very general bifurcation is given. One is called Sampatti Upasana. Sampatti Upasana means the Upasana where you superimpose one thing on the other, etc. And then you, like for example, on a stone, what do you say? This is Saligrama. Saligrame Vishnum Dhyayet. This is an injunction, Vedic injunction. So before the peninsula, which we call India, this was part of Africa. There was all just water here, and then slowly with the shifting of the tectonic plates, long time ago, then India, what we call Bharat, India now, collided against the land mass, creating the Himalayan mountains. Before all that was ocean. Now that's why when you dig around in the Himalayan mountains, you find the remnants of the ocean, fossilized shells in the form of a conch, that is petrified, made into stone, in the form of a chakra. So now any Hindu who sees chakra and shankha, what do they see? Vishnu. Immediately Mahavishnu comes to mind. So these stones are called Saligrama. You will see them, people selling on the road and all that. People are there. For some reason they keep the stones in water. I don't know why, but then they will show you. They will cut it and show you. Some have shankha insignia on them. Some have, the most common one is chakra. So in the injunction, Saligrame Vishnum Dhyayet, we have one form of upasana. And what is that one form of upasana? This Nikrishta Vastuni in something that is Nikrishta. Nikrishta means not exalted. This kind of a thing is very commonly available. It's not an exalted thing, it is a piece of stone. It is a piece of stone with the embossed shell on it. The shell has disintegrated and gone, the embossing is still very much there. So, Nikrishta Vastuni in something that is inferior, such as what? The stone with the markings there, Utkrishta Vastu Sthapya Adhyasya. This is a deliberate adhyasa. We know that that's not Vishnu. We know that there is nothing to do with Vishnu at all. It is a stone. But then in this Nikrishta Vastu, Utkrishta Vastu. What is the Utkrishta Vastu? Mahavishnu is the Utkrishta Vastu. Adhyaropya. So the aropa, the deliberate adhyasa or the deliberate adhyaropa is done. So instead of stone, what do I see? Mahavishnu. And then even in the adhishthana, in that little, if you have been wondering what is kept in that steel cup, everybody is wondering. So, and then you haven't had the chance to go near and see because it's always covered by flowers, etc. That is what is kept. Insignia of Vishnu. So this being the injunction for what? Meditation. Because for meditation, you need something to concentrate on. If the person was told, just worship, mentally worship and think of Mahavishnu, they will not think of Mahavishnu. They will think instead of chocolate cake, because that is what comes to mind. So here there is a adhikarana for the focus. There is a locus for the focus. Hey, that came out nice. Yeah, there is a locus for the focus here. And that locus is important, otherwise no locus, no focus. The focus will not take place. That ekagra manaha, one will not become somebody who has that kind of a mind, which is important for what? Wrong. Yeah, study. All upasana is for being available for study. Chitta Naischalya. So that ekagra manaha, if one has to become, so then these are all, this is called sampatti upasana. And then various kinds of things are there, or you can look at the tree and say, I superimpose Brahman on this tree. Actually, it's not a superimposition; it is a reality. But from the standpoint of this person, it is a kind of a superimposition. Then another type of upasana is there, which is called ahangraha upasana. What was the first one called? Sampatti upasana, and the other one is called ahangraha upasana. What is aham? Me. Aham grahanam means in the meditation I bring in myself also. That is ahangraha upasana. So for example, if I say that this tree which I can see outside the window is what? Brahman. Or I say it is Vishnu, because Vishnu is, connected to the protector of trees and all. So, and then I say, I too am non-separate from this Vishnu. Then it becomes what? Ahangraha upasana. So now, Adi Shankara entertains this verse, another interpretation of the verse as follows. Why not take Brahmarpanam, Brahma Havihi, etc., etc., as a kind of an upasana? What kind of upasana? Sampat upasana, sampatti upasana. Like, just as Saligrame Vishnum Dhyayet. And then, in the yajne Brahma Pashyet. So this could be that kind of an injunction. Whenever you do yajna, what should you do? See Brahman, see it as Brahman. Why not take that? And then Adi Shankara will answer saying that this would be a wonderful interpretation. I have no problem with this interpretation, because the Shastra deliberately superimposes this on that, and see Rama somewhere, see whenever you see yellow cloth, see Krishna, and then whenever you see flute, see Krishna. All these things the Shastra herself does. And Adi Shankara says, I have absolutely no problem with this. If this verse were not in the section on knowledge and the chapter on knowledge and in the context of self-knowledge. What is going on now? Atmajnana Prakaranam is going on. What is Atmajnana Prakaranam? Atmajnana Prakaranam means the section, Prakaranam the context in which Atmajnanam is being discussed. Because, remember, verse number 18. Karmani akarma yah pashyet. Karmani akarma yah pashyet. Akarmani cha karma yah. Who is that person? Sa buddhiman. Manushyeshu buddhiman. Sa yuktaha. Sa kritsna karma krit. So the buddhiman is being discussed here. Buddhiman is not one who has a buddhi, but the one who has used the buddhi. That is buddhiman. So, this buddhiman, the one who uses that buddhi, is the one that is being discussed. And who is that person? Akarta, abhokta. So, the contextually, this will not be an admissible interpretation. What will not be an admissible interpretation? That this shloka is for the sake of what? Some kind of a visualization. There is no visualization taught here, and there is no visualization that is expected, because this is jnana prakarana. This is the main rebuttal. Let us see what he says. Atra kechid ahuhu. Some people say, what do they say about this shloka? Yat Brahma tad arpanadini. About this shloka they say, this shloka beginning with Brahma arpanam, etc. Brahma eva kila arpanadina panchavidhena karakatmana vyavasthitam sat. So what do they say? Look, there may be factors of action like doer and then object, instrument, locus of action, cause of action. Yes, there may be these fivefold things, kriya, karaka, phala, karta, bhokta. These fivefold things will be there in every action. But why not see or visualize everything as Brahman? This is what these people say. Visualize the karaka bheda, visualize all the karakas as what? Brahman. Here there is a difference, because don't get confused, because the first interpretation, Adi Shankara's interpretation is what? Understand everything as Brahman. Here it's what? Visualize everything as Brahman. Do you see the difference? Yes. Say yes even if you don't want to. Yeah. So here it's a simple visualization for the sake of meditation. For the sake of meditation you do this visualization, and then karakatma vyavasthitam sat tadeva karma karoti. So then all actions who is doing? Brahman is doing. Please see that all the actions who is doing? Brahman alone is doing. See that. And then tatra na arpanadi buddhihi nivartyate. So now here the buddhi of seeing Brahman does not change. Seeing everything as Brahman does not change. The purposes for which seeing everything as Brahman, that is different. Do you understand that? In the first instance, for the jnani because of Atma Jnanam naturally sees everything as Brahman, but the ajnani, for the ajnani, this is a visualization of practicing seeing everything as Brahman for the sake of meditation. Okay? So therefore, the arpanadi buddhi, that everything is Brahman, does not change in either case. Kintu arpanadishu brahma buddhihi adhiyate. So that everything is Brahman cannot change, does not change, but adhiyate means Brahman is the awareness that everything is Brahman is adhyaropita on all actions. On all actions, just like you see Vishnu in what? In the saligrama. So, what is the saligrama here? All the actions are saligrama. What do you see instead of Vishnu? Here you see Brahman. So you superimpose Brahman on all your actions as a way of meditation. And then adhiyate yatha pratimadau vishnumadi buddhihi tatha eva tatha va namadau brahma buddhihi iti. Then he makes it very clear. Pratima means what? Image. So supposing you bring one Vishnu Murti from the shop. Until you buy it, it is just an icon. But then you put it on your altar and you give it the power to bless you. You validate that icon to be what? Not a small icon of 4 inches, but Mahavishnu. So now the Pratima is no longer Pratima. Pratima means the image. So after you put it on the altar, there has a change that has taken place because of this permanent superimposition. What is the superimposition? This is not Pratima. What is this? Mahavishnu. And so the next day, if you are talking to people in your family and then asking, did anybody do Naivedya? Did anybody offer something to, what will you say? How will you complete? To Mahavishnu. Nobody will say, did anybody offer something to this 3-inch image we got from the shop yesterday? Nobody says that. The superimposition and the identification is complete. Similarly, in all actions, you see the actor as Brahman. You see the fruit of action as Brahman. You see the means of action as Brahman. All the kriya, karaka, phala, everything is who? Brahman. Just like you see it in the Pratima. So in all namadav, in all names and forms, you have Brahma buddhi, Brahma awareness, etc. And then Adi Shankara is very kind on this, because it's a kind of an interpretation which is a homegrown interpretation, which is within the family. This is not a Purva Pakshi coming out of some what is that? Some kind of a contentious place, like the logician, like the logician's cousin, the Vaisheshika, and all these things. So this is a friendly fire. So it's a friendly discussion. And so here Adi Shankara very calmly says, Satyamevam api syat. Syat means it would have been. This would have been a sound interpretation. When, how, yadi jnana stutyartham prakaranam na syat. If this section was not focused on the extolling of the knowledge and the discovery of oneself as akarma, the one who performs no action, if that was not the intent of this section, I would happily accept this interpretation. This is what he says. Atratu, in this context, samyak darshanam jnana yajna shabditam anekan yajna shabditan kriya visheshan upanyasya shreyan dravyamayad yajnat jnana yajnah iti jnanam stauti. You perhaps, whoever you are who offered this interpretation, have not studied the 4th chapter in its entirety. You haven't read what is going to come. But I have. Since I have, I cannot let this interpretation fly, because now we have finished this section on the discovery of oneself as akarta. Then all other, in addition to Brahma Yajna, which this is all about, Jnana Yajna, the Yajna of knowledge, all other Yajnas of self-restraint, pranayama, yogasana, and various kinds of tapas, and various kinds of vratas, vows, as religious disciplines, are going to be taken up one by one in the succeeding section, and then it is going to be concluded at the end of that section in verse number 33 or thereabouts. Shreyan dravyamayad yajnat jnana yajnam parantapa. So, Shreyan means is better. What is better? The Jnana Yajna is better. The Jnana Yajna means the Yajna in the form of this knowledge. The knowledge is itself a sacrifice. We saw that. Brahmagnau, Brahmanahutam. So the discovery of oneself as a karta means you have to offer what? All the sense objects into the fire of self-knowledge. Everything is offered. And it is indeed a very big sacrifice, because it's a huge sacrifice, because other than pursuing small ends, you have given up all the small ends for the biggest end that there is, which is the truth of oneself as non-doer and non-miserable. Non-miserable, non-doer. Therefore what? Miserable doer. Non-miserable, non-doer means what? Then if the opposite is there, what happens? So the misery comes from what? Doership. Miserable doer, non-miserable non-doer. This is the section. And all the other forms of tapas which we are going to see are delineated for what purpose? To compare this to this Jnana Yajna and to extol Jnana Yajna. Because all the vows and all are for whose sake? For the sake of the person gaining this knowledge, for the sake of antakarana shuddhi, for the sake of ekagrata, single-minded focus. And why do we need this focus? We need this focus for Shravanam, because otherwise the mind will go like that along with the eyes. So, I'm looking at the people and suddenly one person has a glazed expression, has already gone to South Africa mentally and thinking about something there. And then of course the person comes back because the person is a mumukshu, jignasu. But by the time they come back, Tatvamasi has also gone. Yeah, the explanation has gone. So therefore, the honing in of this ability, all the yajnas, all the forms of tapas are in reality, they are sacrificing themselves on the altar of this knowledge. They are all for the sake of knowledge. This is the section we are entering into. So therefore, this understanding is not tenable. Okay. And then, samyak darshana jnana yajna shabditam anekan yajna shabditan means in comparison to all the other yajnas, forms of yajna, kriya visheshan, characterized by various activity, having unfolded that, having listed that, upanyasya, in verse 433, this is concluded that this jnana yajna is the most superior of all, and iti jnanam stauti, praises this knowledge. Atra cha samartham idam vachanam brahmarpanam ityadi jnanasya yajnatva sampadane अन्यथा सर्वस्य ब्रह्मत्वे अर्पणादीनाम एव विशेषतः ब्रह्मत्व अभिधानम अनर्थकम. So this verse, this shloka of the Bhagavad Gita must be taken as an upalakshana for sacrifice. How? What is the sacrifice? The knowledge itself is the yajna. The knowledge itself is the sacrifice. This is the only way to take it. Otherwise, if you are asked, please visualize the tree as Brahman. Building, pink building there is Brahman. And the building over here, some hotel or whatever it is, that is also what? Brahman. And then yonder is the banks of the Ganga. What is that? Brahman. And the Ganga herself is what? Brahman. Beyond the Ganga are some mountains. What is that? Brahman. So if you do this kind of a visualization, he says this is redundant. Why is it redundant? Because everything is already what? Brahman. Whether you visualize it or not, is it Brahman or not? Yeah. So this does not become that kind of an upasana. Because if the conch shell shaped stone was already Vishnu, then it would be redundant to say, on this stone see Vishnu. It's not already Vishnu. Therefore the superimposition there works. But here, this Brahman is not something to be visualized because what? Visualizer is Brahman. Visualization is Brahman. Object of visualization is already Brahman. So what is the purpose of this visualization? Pishta Peshanavat means the flour, the wheat was there and the wheat flour has already been ground. And this person took the ground wheat flour and started to grind it again, meaning it is a useless activity. And so therefore, these people, who are these people? Yetu, on the contrary, these people, who are these people? Arpanadishu pratimayam Vishnu drishtivat, like the people who see Pratimayam Vishnu Drishtivat, like the people who see the image of Vishnu in an image, those people who say Arpanadishu Brahma Drishtihi Kshipyate Namadishu iti bruvate na tesham Brahma Vidya Ukta iti Vivakshita Syat. So then, those people who posit, what do they posit? That they just like seeing the image of who? Vishnu in the, just like seeing Vishnu in a small image, similarly they impose the Brahma Drishti. See Brahman in this, that and everything. Those who see that are not serious about Atma Jnanam. That is not the purpose, they have to say that. They are more focused on the visualization rather than understanding what that visualization comprises, what is the purpose. So they will have to accept that na tesham Brahma Vidya Ukta. So they have to say that they are not talking of Brahma Vidya. What is the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita? Brahma Vidya. And if you're not talking of Brahma Vidya, then what? They have to say, this is not Brahma Vidya, this is Brahma visualization. And so therefore, iha vivakshita syat arpanadi vakyatvad jnanasya. So they have to deny the purport of this section. They cannot do that. They cannot deny the purport of this section because they can also read and write, and if they saw clearly, they will not have this interpretation. And then further he says, what is the purpose of this? Every visualization should have a purpose. The visualization of Vishnu on a stone has the purpose of cultivating chitta nischalata. The seeing Vishnu as on the stone, what does it do? It gives you the focus. And then here it gives you ekagrata. What about here? Here what does it give you? Does it give you moksha to be able to say the tree is Brahman? Whole day you say this, keep saying this without understanding anything. Keep saying book is Brahman, table is Brahman, specs are Brahman, mic is Brahman, computer is Brahman, clock is Brahman, camera is Brahman, everybody sitting in front of me is Brahman, Brahman, Brahman. Keep saying that. Will moksha come? No. Moksha from Viveka will come. That's all. Moksha will not come. And that is what he points out, that a purpose, everything should have a purpose. Even the visualization should have a purpose, because there is nothing useless in the Veda. This also should have a purpose. Does this visualization have a purpose? No, because everything is already what? Brahman. And so, from this do you get moksha? No. Okay, keep quiet. And so, न च दृष्टिसम्पादज्ञानेन मोक्षफलं प्राप्यते. Passive is gained. Is gained? No. Na is there in the beginning. Na prapyate. So in the beginning, when you start making sentences in Sanskrit, you should always put the negation before the what? Verb. Yes. The negation, the negative particle na, has to be put before the verb. Na prapyate. But then when you get to Adi Shankara's standard, you can start the whole sentence with nahi, nacha. And it is understood because he has mastery over the language. So, but we should not lose track of that na, which is sitting innocently in the beginning, and then we cannot say moksha phalam prapyate. Then what will happen? Yeah, we will go with a wrong understanding. Moksha phalam na prapyate. Kena drishti sampada jnanena. In fixing the idea that something is Brahman, you don't get moksha. And then he uses the verse itself. What is the verse? Brahmaiva tena gantavyam. Gantavyam is the phalam. Gantavyam is what is to be reached. Gamana yogyam, that what is to be reached. What has to be reached is what? Brahman, which is moksha swarupa. That has to be reached. You cannot deny the meaning of that verse. So this, what is that called? This explanation is totally what? Untenable. One more reason why it is not tenable, he just repeats himself in a slightly different way. He says, Prakriti virodha cha. Prakriti virodhat. What is Prakriti? Prakriti here is Prakritam, context. Prakriti here is not Maya, Shakti. Prakriti here is not Mother Nature. Prakriti means Prakritam. This, what is this? Prakritam Brahma. This Brahman here in the section of what? Knowledge. The context. It is virodha. Virodha means it is opposite to what? The context. It is oppositional to the context. And what is the context? Samyak darshanam eva prakritam. What is the context? Seeing this, understanding everything, proper understanding is what is contextualized here. And this we know, karmani akarma yaf pashyet, the section started with that, and it is concluding here, iti atra ante cha. In conclusion, samyak darshanam yasya eva upasamharat. And then it is what was started in verse 18, that the discovery of oneself as akarta, abhokta is now concluded with the same strain. What is that? This person who is akarta how? Because of right perception, right knowledge. And the right knowledge is understanding that all these factors of action die away, fall away. The ahankara also falls away. There is no knower left. All that is there is knowledge as myself. This is the section. And why are you bringing some, what is that called? Visualization, Brahma Darshanam. All these things are unnecessary, because when the straightforward explanation is valid, you don't take a secondary explanation. The secondary explanation must be taken only when the straightforward explanation does not work. This is the rudhi in the Shastra. This is the accepted custom in the Shastra. The straightforward explanation must work. First you go for that. You don't go for, and even in a daily life we do that. Somebody said, for example, you say, where did you go? And they said, we went for a walk. On the road, we went for the walk. So that is a straightforward explanation. It explains why they were not there for 1 hour, because 1 hour they went for a walk and then they came back. And then when the straightforward explanation works, then you take that at face value, because it explains everything. If it does not work, then you look for some other hypothesis. If somebody else says, they didn't go for a walk, I saw them somewhere else, and then you say, wait, there is a discrepancy. Then if the first explanation doesn't work, then you go for the other explanation. Every parent of a teenager knows this. Why are you home so late? I was studying with a friend. And then what will the parent say? I called that friend. You were not there. So the straightforward explanation here is not so straightforward after all. Because I called that friend. No, I was with another friend. Well, the mother here has all the numbers, okay? I called the other friend too. You were not there. Here again, then only you go. When the straightforward explanation is not working, then you go for a different hypothesis. Here it is easily assimilable. Why you have to go and bring in some other explanation? Because it is fitting with the context. And then he says it is the conclusion for this very complicated and important section. Shreyan Dravyamayad Yagnat Jnana Yajnaf Parantapa. And then further, towards the end of the chapter, Jnanam Labdhva Param Shantim Nachirenadhi Gacchati Ityadina. Through not only the conclusion of this section, but the conclusion of the entire chapter itself, Samyak Darshana Stutim Eva Kurvan Upakshinaha Adhyayaha. So, Upakshinaha means the chapter is finished, concluded. How is the chapter concluded? By extolling the virtues of Atmajnanam and showing how this Atmajnanam is to be gained. That's how not only this section, but the chapter also concludes. So, Tatra, so this being the case, Tatra means in this context, Akasmat arpanadau brahmadrishtihi. Akasmat means suddenly. Suddenly the idea. Akasmat means without any cause, without any purva and apara connection. Without any cause, without seeing what went before, without seeing what went after, you are simply positing that in this verse you please visualize something called Brahman, which cannot even be visualized. Then, aprakarane pratimayam iva vishnu drishtihi uchyate iti anupapannam. This kind of a sudden interpretation, a sudden hypothesis that this Brahman should be actually Brahmadrishti is without any context, without any reason, without any purpose, is what Anupapannam, therefore, it is untenable. Tasmat, final therefore. Therefore, yatha vyakhyataarthaha eva ayam shlokaha. Please take this shloka to be interpreted as it was done earlier. As it was done earlier, please interpret the shloka in that way only. So that concludes this big, another big bhashya, which was first big bhashya was at the beginning of this section. Second big bhashya is at the conclusion of this section. Daivameva pare yajñam yoginav paryupasate brahmagnavapare yajñam yajñenaivopajuhvati. Here we are beginning another section, and then in the next class what I will do is give a kind of a broad map of the various topics we have covered so far, and then what are the topics remaining to be covered till the end of the chapter. We have already done this, but it's a nice thing to do a little bit of a simhavalokanam before beginning this section. This section is very easy, it's a no-brainer, so we will speed through it. Not so important also. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.